Hello everyone. In this video we are going to see about the anatomy of left ventricle. Heart consists of four chambers: right atrium, right ventricle; left atrium, left ventricle. This is the anterior view of the heart and this is the posterior view of the heart. This is left ventricle. Left ventricle contributes in the formation of the anterior or sternocostal surface of the heart, 2/3 of the diaphragmatic surface of the heart, major portion of the left surface and left border of the heart, and apex of the heart. To see the interior of the left ventricle, we will cut open the left ventricle and we will see the left ventricle from the left lateral view. So here will be the outline of the left ventricle. Here will be the aorta. Here will be left atrium which opens into the left ventricle through this left atrioventricular orifice. Now coming to the interior of the left ventricle. Interior of the left ventricle and the interior of the right ventricle are very much similar, and like the right ventricle, interior of the left ventricle is also divided in the two parts: inflow tract and outflow tract. Here you get the inflow tract. Inflow tract is rough, so it is also called as the inflowing rough part. It is derived from the left half of the primitive ventricular chamber of the heart tube, so also called as the ventricle proper. While the outflow part is situated in the upper part, it is smooth, also called as the aortic vestibule, and it is derived from left part of the bulbus cordis. This inflow tract receives the blood from the left atrium through the left atrioventricular orifice and then ejects the blood through the outflow tract into the ascending aorta. While flowing from the inflow tract to the outflow tract, the blood flow makes an acute angle because the aortic orifice and the left atrioventricular orifice are approximated. Coming to the features of the inflow tract. Inflow tract is divided in the two parts: left atrioventricular orifice and mitral wall complex. Along with that, we will discuss this inflow tract as trabeculae carni. Now coming to the left atrioventricular orifice. This left atrioventricular orifice is in the similar plane like that of the right atrioventricular orifice, means it is vertically oriented, making an angle of the 45° with the sagittal plane. It lies posterior superior to this right atrioventricular orifice. Its circumference measures about 7 to 9 centimeters and it allows the passage of tips of two fingers. This left atrioventricular orifice communicates the left atrium with the left ventricle. Coming to the next, that is mitral wall complex. This mitral wall complex consists of four components: mitral annulus, cusp or leaflet, chordae tendineae, and pillars or papillary muscles. This left atrioventricular orifice is guarded by two cusps, so also called as the bicuspid orifice. Other name of this left atrioventricular orifice is mitral orifice. So coming to the mitral wall complex. Mitral annulus, like the tricuspid annulus, consists of anterior and posterior collagenous rims of phyla coronaria. So here you get, this is the anterior and this is the posterior phyla coronaria. In addition to this phyla coronaria, this mitral annulus shows presence of right and left fibrous trigones. So here you get, this is right fibrous trigone and this is the left fibrous trigone. These right and left fibrous trigones, they extend towards the aortic orifice. Suppose here if we draw, this is the aortic orifice. Aortic orifice is actually guarded by three aortic cusps which are attached to the three scallops, aortic scallops, which are concave upwards. So here you get, this is the anterior aortic scallop. Here you get, this is the left and posterior aortic scallop. Likewise here you get, this is the right and posterior aortic scallop. So the right fibrous trigone, it extends and get attached to this right posterior scallop, and left fibrous trigone get attached to the left posterior aortic scallop, and the area in between the two is occupied by subaortic curtain. Here you get, this is subaortic curtain. This subaortic curtain extends down into the cusp. So here you get the anterior cusp and here you get the posterior cusp present in this orifice. So this is anterior cusp, this is posterior cusp. Subaortic curtain, it extends down and forms the central part of this anterior cusp of the mitral orifice. So this mitral annulus, which is present over here, it consists of anterior and posterior phyla coronaria, right fibrous trigone, left fibrous trigone and subaortic curtain. Coming to the next, that is a cusp. So there are two cusps in this orifice, anterior cusp and the posterior cusp. Cusps are formed by the reduplication of the endocardium containing the lamina fibrosa. This anterior cusp, it is attached to the anteromedial aspect of the mitral annulus, which extends between the right and left fibrous trigones, and at the attachment it measures about 3 to 3.5 centimeters, while the posterior cusp is attached to the posterolateral part of the mitral annulus, and near the attachment it extends from 4 to 5 centimeters. Now if you see the anterior cusp and the posterior cusp, the structure of the anterior cusp and the posterior cusp will be like this. Imagine this is the mitral annulus. Attached to that, somewhere here you get the anterior cusp and this is the posterior cusp. These cusp, like the cusp of the right atrioventricular orifice, show three zones. So basal zone, clear zone and the rough zone. But for the anterior cusp, basal zone is absent and here you get the clear zone and the rough zone. So this is the rough zone and this is clear zone. For the posterior leaflet, the basal zone is divided into 3 scallops. This is the medial scallop, this is middle scallop, and this is the lateral scallop. So all these are the parts of basal zone. So basal zone in case of the posterior leaflet is divided into the medial scallop, middle scallop and the lateral scallop. It shows the clear zone over here, and then is the rough zone. If you see the rough zone of the posterior leaflet, it occupies more surface area than the rough zone of the anterior leaflet, and that's why in the closure of the left atrioventricular orifice, posterior leaflet plays an important role. Now coming to the next, that is the chordae tendineae. Chordae tendineae are the collagenous threads covered by the endothelium. These chordae tendineae appear thread-like structures, and there are two types of the chordae tendineae: true chordae tendineae and false chordae tendineae. False chordae tendineae, they just extend on the surface of the ventricle from one area to the other area. So this false chordae tendineae just extend from one area of the ventricle to the other area and doesn't have any functional importance, but the true chordae tendineae are attached to the cusp of the left atrioventricular orifice and deserve the functional importance. So the true chordae tendineae are divided into the 5 subtypes depending on the area they are attached to the cusp. So here suppose this is the pillar or the papillary muscle. Upper 1/3 of this pillar give attachment to the chordae tendineae. From the papillary muscle to the commissure. Commissure is the area where the two cusps are attached to each other. So here this area is the commissure. So this chordae tendineae is called as the commissural chordae tendineae. Other type, it extends from the papillary muscle to the margin of the leaflet. So these are called as the free marginal chordae tendineae. Next type extends here from the papillary muscle to the rough zone, and it divides into the 3 strands. One strand get attached to the margin of the cusp, other is attached to the junction between the clear zone and the rough zone, and one strand is attached midway between the two. So these chordae are called as the rough zone chordae. One type extends deep to the rough zone chordae and get attached from the papillary muscles to the junction between the clear zone and the rough zone. These chordae are called as the deep chordae. And one more variety extends from the ventricular surface, to the basal zone of the leaflet. So these chordae are referred as the basal chordae. So these are the types of the chordae tendineae. The function of the chordae tendineae, they prevent the bulging of the cusp into the left atrium when the left ventricle contracts and help in the proper closure of this left atrioventricular orifice. So here you will get the anterior cusp attached and the posterior cusp attached to this left atrioventricular orifice. Now coming to the last part of the mitral wall complex, that is pillars. Pillars are also called papillary muscles, are the part of trabeculae carni. So we will discuss along with trabeculae carni. Trabeculae carni are the muscular ridges which make the inflow part rough. There are 3 types of the trabeculae carni. They are ridges, bridges and pillars. So ridges are just the surface elevations, while the bridges, they are connected at their 2 ends to the ventricular surface and free in the middle, while the pillars are the papillary muscles which are conical in the shape. So here you get one papillary muscle and here is the other papillary muscle. So they are conical in the shape. Base of this papillary muscle is attached to the ventricular surface and the apex is free in the ventricular chamber. Upper 1/3 of this papillary muscle give attachment to the chordae tendineae. So in this left ventricle you get there are two papillary muscles. One is the anterior papillary muscle which is attached to the anterior or sternocostal surface of the left ventricle, and this is the posterior pillar or papillary muscle which is attached to the diaphragmatic surface of the left ventricle. So anterior papillary muscle is attached to both the cusp, anterior as well as posterior cusp of the left atrioventricular orifice. Same is true for this posterior papillary muscle. It is also attached through the chordae tendineae to both the cusp of the left atrioventricular orifice. One of the rough zone chordae tendineae which is attached to the anterior cusp, it is very thick and strong, and that chordae tendineae extends from the anterior papillary muscle to the anterior leaflets, and one more extends from the posterior papillary muscle to the anterior leaflet. This chordae tendineae is called as the strut chordae, as they are strong and they help in the proper anchorage of the anterior leaflet during the contraction of the left ventricle and the closure of the left atrioventricular orifice. So that is about the inflow tract. Coming to the outflow tract. Outflow tract lies in the upper part. It is smooth, also called as aortic vestibule, and it is truncated. It lies in front of this anterior cusp of the left atrioventricular orifice. At the apex of this outflow tract there is an orifice which is aortic orifice guarded by three semilunar cusp, one on the anterior aspect, two on the posterior aspect. So if you cut open the aorta, it will be like this. So you get there are three semilunar cusp attached to the aortic orifice. Bases of this cusp are attached to the scallops, aortic scallops, and the free margin of this aortic cusp, it shows the nodule in the center and thin margins extending on either side called as the lunuli. At the attachment of this cusp to the wall of aorta, there is a dilatation called as the aortic sinus of Valsalva, aortic sinus of Valsalva, and just above that there is a supravalvar ridge which marks the junction between the sinus and the ascending aorta. So below the supravalvar ridge there is a sinus and above that level is the ascending aorta. So there are three semilunar cusps. These cusps are formed by the reduplication of the endocardium containing the lamina fibrosa. So that is about the outflow tract. Now coming to the thickness or wall of the left ventricle. Thickness of the wall of the left ventricle is almost 8 to 12 millimeters. 8 to 12 millimeters. It is almost 3 times thicker than the wall of the right ventricle, which measures about 3 to 5 millimeter. The reason is, in the left ventricle, the arterial pressure is almost 120 millimeter of the mercury during ventricular contraction, while in the right ventricle, venous pressure is only 25 millimeter of the mercury. To sustain the large pressure, wall of the left ventricle is thick. The musculature of the left ventricle is thin near the apex and near the aortic vestibule. This muscle tissue is replaced near the aortic vestibule by the fibrous content. So that is about the wall of the left ventricle. Because of the pressure within the left ventricle, even the interventricular septum is pushed towards the right ventricle, so that in the cross section the left ventricle appears circular while the cavity of the right ventricle appears crescent shape, and the cavity of left ventricle, it appears circular because the septum is a push towards the right side. So that is about the interior of the left ventricle. So interior of the left ventricle, it shows the inflowing tract which is a rough, outflow part which is a smooth. Inflow tract consists of the chordae tendineae and the anterior and posterior papillary muscles along with the left atrioventricular orifice with anterior and the posterior cusp, while the aortic vestibule, that is the outflow part, it consists of the aortic annulus guarded by the anterior cusp and the two posterior cusp. This anterior aortic sinus give origin to the right coronary artery. So the opening of the right coronary artery is seen in this anterior aortic sinus. Likewise, you get one more opening in the left posterior aortic sinus, which gives origin to the left coronary artery, while the right posterior aortic sinus is a non-coronary sinus because it doesn't give origin to any coronary artery, and this right posterior aortic sinus produces the bulge in the right atrium which is called as the torus aorticus. When this aortic orifice is closed, it appears like triradiate lines, and when it is open, it assumes the triangular shape. So that is about the interior of the left ventricle. The same features of this left ventricle we will see on the specimen of the heart. Thank you. This is the specimen of the heart. Heart consists of 4 chambers: right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, left ventricle. In this video, we are going to see about the left ventricle. This is left ventricle. Left ventricle forms part of the anterior or sternocostal surface of the heart. Left ventricle forms the 2/3 of the diaphragmatic surface of the heart, major part of the left surface of the heart, major part of the left border of the heart, and whole of the apex of the heart. To see the interior of the left ventricle, we will cut open the left ventricle. Now we have taken the cut. Interior of the left ventricle is divided into 2 parts: inflowing rough part, this is the inflowing rough part, and outflowing smooth part. Inflowing rough part is also called as the ventricle proper, and it is derived from the left half of the primitive ventricular chamber of the heart tube, while the outflowing smooth part is derived from the left part of the bulbous cordis, and it is also called as the aortic vestibule. Now first about the features of the inflow tract. Left ventricle receives the blood from the left atrium through the left atrioventricular orifice, which is guarded by the 2 cusp. Now here this is the anterior cusp, and behind that will be the posterior cusp. To see the cusp, both the cusp, we have taken the section like this. So this is the left atrium, this is the left ventricle, and this is the left atrioventricular orifice guarded by the anterior cusp, and this is the posterior cusp. Atrioventricular orifice is guarded by 2 cusps. It is also called as the bicuspid wall. Other name of this wall is mitral wall. Circumference of this left atrioventricular orifice is almost 7 to 9 centimeters. Coming to the inflowing tract, it is made rough because of the presence of trabeculae carni. There are 3 types of the trabeculae carni: ridges, bridges, and pillars. Ridges are just the surface elevations, while bridges are connected at their 2 ends and free in the center, and pillars are papillary muscles. There are 2 papillary muscles in the left ventricle: anterior papillary muscle and the posterior papillary muscle. So here this is the anterior papillary muscle which is attached to the sternocostal surface of the left ventricle, and this is a posterior papillary muscle which is attached to the diaphragmatic surface of the left ventricle. these are conical in the shape. Base is attached to the ventricular surface, and apex near the upper one third of the papillary muscle shows the attachment of thread-like structures called chordae tendineae. There are two types of the chordae tendineae, true chordae tendineae and the false chordae tendineae. False chordae tendineae just extend from the one part of the ventricular surface to the other part, while the true chordae tendineae are attached to the cusp of the left atrioventricular orifice. Again, these true chordae tendineae get divided into the different types depending on the area of the cusp they are attached. They are of the commissural chordae tendineae or cleft chordae tendineae, free marginal chordae tendineae, deep chordae tendineae, rough zone chordae tendineae and basal zone chordae tendineae. The chordae tendineae attached to the anterior cusp, one of the chordae tendineae is very strong coming from the papillary muscle, one is coming from the posterior papillary muscle, likewise one more you get from the anterior papillary muscles, and these chordae are very strong and also referred as the strut chordae tendineae, and they help in the anchorage of the anterior cusp. These chordae tendineae are the collagenous threads covered by the endothelium and help in the proper closure of the left atrioventricular orifice and prevent the cusp to enter into the left atrium when this left ventricle contracts, and prevents the regurgitation of the blood from the left ventricle into the left atrium. So, that is about the inflowing rough part. Coming to the outflowing smooth part, this is the outflowing smooth part. Posterior wall of this outflowing smooth part is formed by this anterior cusp of that left atrioventricular orifice. This smooth part is a truncated or conical. At the apex, it shows the opening of aorta. So, aortic opening is seen at the apex of the smooth part. This aortic opening is guarded by the three semilunar walls. One is present on the anterior aspect and two on the posterior aspect. So, these are the semilunar walls formed by the reduplication of the endocardium containing lamina fibrosa. Each cusp has the attached margin which is attached to the wall of the aorta at the aortic annulus, and the free margin. Free margin of this cusp shows the nodule in the center and lunuli extending on either side. Here you can see the cusp at the aortic orifice. So, the free margin of the cusp shows the nodule. On either side of the nodule you get thin lunuli. At the presence of the cusp, this aorta shows the dilatation called aortic sinus of Valsalva, which is limited from the ascending aorta by supravalvar ridge. Below the supravalvar ridge there is a aortic sinus. So, because of the three cusps we get three aortic sinuses. So, in this specimen also you can see the three semilunar cusp of the aortic orifice, and this is the aortic sinus. Anterior aortic sinus shows the opening here. So, this opening is actually, this is the coronary ostium which gives origin to the right coronary artery. Likewise, there are two posterior aortic sinuses. The left posterior aortic sinus is here. You can see here the opening of the ear is the opening of origin of left coronary artery. So, anterior aortic sinus gives origin to the right coronary artery, and the left posterior aortic sinus gives origin to the left coronary artery, while this right posterior aortic sinus does not give origin to any coronary artery. So, it is called non-coronary sinus, and it produces the bulge in the right atrium called torus aorticus. That is about inflow and outflow tract. Coming to the thickness of the wall of the left ventricle. So, this is the left ventricle. It is 3 times thicker than the wall of right ventricle. This is the right ventricle. Here is the interventricular septum. Reason is arterial pressure in the left ventricle is almost 120 millimeter of the mercury during ventricular contraction, while the venous pressure in the right ventricle is only 25 millimeter of the mercury during ventricular contraction. To sustain the large pressure, the wall of the left ventricle is 3 times thicker than the wall of the right ventricle. It measures about 8 to 12 millimeter in thickness, and the interventricular septum, because of the pressure within the left ventricle, is pushed towards the right ventricle, so that in the cross section cavity of the left ventricle appears circular, while the cavity of right ventricle appears crescent shape. So that is about the interior of the left ventricle.